My fiancée mocked my budget black. Friday, proposal ring with her friends. So I called off the wedding and let her explain that alone. I'm a 29-year-old guy who's always tried to do the right thing. Save smart, live within my means, and build a future I wouldn't be ashamed of. I didn't grow up with much. My parents worked long hours just to keep the lights on. So when I got my degree, landed a decent IT job, and started putting money away each month, it felt like I was finally breaking a cycle. That's one of the things Jasmine always said she loved about me. "You're so stable," she'd say. "You're not flashy like the guys I used to date." I took that as a compliment. I thought she meant it. For 2 years, we built what I believed was a strong relationship. Movie nights on the couch, home-cooked meals, talking about kids and buying our first home. Nothing extravagant, just 2 people planning a life. So when I decided to propose, I wanted to get her something meaningful, not something that would put me in debt. I found a beautiful ring during a Black Friday sale, an understated solitaire with a delicate band, nothing loud or trendy, just elegant. I spent weeks comparing prices, making sure it wasn't cheap in quality, just discounted for the holiday. It cost me nearly 2 months of savings. When the moment came, I took her out to the little rooftop where we'd had our first date. I was shaking. I gave a whole speech about how I wanted to build a life with her, how this ring was a symbol of not just love, but commitment and partnership. She said yes, but the smile didn't touch her eyes. Not really. And for a split second, she looked at the ring. Like it was a joke. I told myself I imagined it. But I didn't. And that one look, just one, was the crack everything started to fall through. At first, I tried to convince myself I'd read too much into it. Maybe she was just surprised. Maybe she'd expected something different. I mean, proposals catch people off guard, right? That's what I kept telling myself as we drove home in silence, her hand resting lightly on my thigh, but the ring turned slightly so the stone was hidden. She barely mentioned it the rest of the night. No selfies, no calls to her friends, no giddy dancing in the kitchen like I imagined. Just a flat, tired, "Thanks, babe." I'm just exhausted from all the excitement. I didn't push. I wanted to give her space. Maybe she was processing. Maybe she was overwhelmed. But then around midnight, I heard her laughing softly in the living room. I got up half asleep and peeked around the corner. She was on FaceTime with her sister, holding up the ring to the camera and whispering, "Can you believe this? He literally bought my engagement ring on Black Friday." She laughed again. Her sister said something I couldn't quite make out, but it made Jasmine snort and say, "It's giving coupon love?" I stepped back before she saw me. My heart felt like it was lodged in my throat. I stood in the hallway, barefoot and stunned, staring at the carpet like it would offer some explanation for what I'd just heard. This woman had just said yes to spending her life with me, and within hours, she was turning my most vulnerable moment into a joke. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to her while she dozed off, softly snoring, her ring still on. But all I could think was, if this is how she talks about me behind my back, what else don't I know? A few days later, Jasmine left her iPad on the kitchen counter while she ran out for groceries. I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. I just tapped it to check the time, and a notification popped up. It was from a group chat called The Bridal Coven. The message preview read, "LMAO Jasmine, I still can't get over that ring." It looks like something out of a gumball machine. I froze. I shouldn't have clicked it. I know that. But curiosity, no gut instinct, it got the better of me. What I saw after that still makes my chest tighten. There were photos. My photo. The one I'd taken of Jasmine right after I proposed. Her smiling, hand outstretched, the ring catching the light. Only now it was surrounded by laughing emojis, glittery gifs of women fake crying, and comments like, "He really said recession core. Girl, tell me you didn't say yes to a doorbuster diamond. Can we crowdfund you a real ring before the wedding?" And Jasmine? She was in there too, sending laughing reactions, replying with, "I guess love is blind," and broke. I stared at the screen, my jaw clenched, palms sweating. It wasn't just one joke. It was a whole running thread. A performance, a roast, and I was the punchline. My hand shook as I put the iPad down like it might burn me. I stood in that quiet kitchen, blinds half drawn, a pot of water simmering on the stove. And I felt small. Smaller than I had in years. I had poured my heart and savings into that ring. And the woman who wore it? She thought it was all one big joke. By the time Jasmine came home, I'd gone numb. I helped her carry in the groceries, nodded through her chatter about traffic and long lines, but I couldn't look her in the eyes. I kept seeing those messages, hearing the echo of her laughter from that FaceTime call. That night, after dinner, I finally said something. My voice came out low and even, like I'd rehearsed it in my head 100 times. "Why did you send photos of the ring to your friends to make fun of it?" She blinked, like I'd just asked her why the sky was blue. Then she shrugged and said, "Babe, you're overthinking it. It's just jokes. Girls talk like that sometimes. It's not serious." My hands were clenched under the table. It was serious to me. "I saved for that ring." "I thought you loved it," she rolled her eyes. "I do love it. But come on, you bought it on Black Friday." "Of course they're gonna clown a little. It's harmless." "Harmless?" I repeated, quieter this time. "Jasmine, you called it a recession rock." She laughed at that. Laughed, like the name alone was clever. Okay, yeah, that was a good one though, and in that moment I saw it. Not just her indifference, but her pride. Like mocking my effort was something that made her cooler in their eyes. "You didn't just laugh with them," I said slowly. "You made me the joke. You let them roast something that meant everything to me." Jasmine sighed and got up to clear the plates. "God, you're so sensitive lately." That word, sensitive, hit me like a slap. I sat there staring at my untouched food, wondering when exactly love turned into ridicule, and how long she'd been laughing behind my back. The next morning, I woke up before her. I just sat on the edge of the bed, watching the light creep through the blinds, thinking about how quickly everything had shifted. A week ago, I thought I'd found my forever person. Now I couldn't unhear her jokes, unsee the messages, or forget the hollowness I felt when she called me sensitive, like my pain was just an inconvenience. That afternoon, I asked her if we could talk about something important. She was scrolling through wedding dresses on her phone, her eyes barely looking up. "Sure, what's up?" "I want us to sign a prenup," I said gently. "Nothing crazy, just something fair. To protect both of us," she laughed. Out loud. "A prenup? For what, babe? Your air fryer and student loans?" I felt my stomach turn. "I'm serious, Jasmine. I've spent years building my business from nothing. It's small, yeah, but it matters to me. I just think it's smart to be prepared." "Oh my God," she said, waving her hand like I was a fly buzzing in her face. "You really think I'm after your money? That's so insulting. I'm not marrying you for your net worth, trust me." I stared at her, unsure whether she meant that as reassurance or another dig. "It's not about that. It's about respect, Jasmine. About protecting each other." She rolled her eyes. "Whatever. Do what you want. Just don't expect me to sign something that makes me feel like I'm some gold digger." I didn't say anything else. I just nodded, but deep down something shifted. I wasn't trying to test her. I was trying to protect what I built, what I thought we were building together, and instead of understanding... She laughed. Again, and I couldn't help but wonder, was anything about this relationship real anymore? It didn't take long for the wedding planning to spiral into something I could barely recognize. Jasmine's Pinterest boards looked like the budget of a minor Hollywood film. She wanted a destination wedding in Tulum, a 5-tier cake with gold leaf, designer bridesmaid robes, a flower wall for photos, custom neon signs with our initials. Every suggestion I made about scaling back was met with eye rolls or sarcasm. "I'm not doing a community center potluck wedding," she snapped once. "My friends have standards." I tried to stay calm. I showed her spreadsheets, compared prices, broke down how much we'd owe after the honeymoon. She barely looked at the numbers. "This is once in a lifetime," she kept saying. It has to be perfect, but it didn't feel like ours anymore. It felt like hers. A performance. A production. Something to post and brag about. I started to feel more like her financial coordinator than her future husband. The final straw came when we met with the florist. Jasmine handed her a vision board with a $10,000 setup, cascading orchids, imported peonies, ceiling installations. When I pulled her aside afterward and gently asked if we could cut that budget in half, she hissed, "Stop being so damn cheap. You're embarrassing me. Cheap." That word echoed in my chest like a gunshot. I didn't even respond. I just nodded and stared at the tile floor of the shop like it could swallow me whole. I'd worked so hard to build a life that was stable, humble, and debt-free. But the woman I loved? She wanted a life that sparkled on Instagram, even if it left us drowning in bills. And somehow, I was now the villain. For trying to be practical. A couple weekends later, one of Jasmine's friends hosted a backyard BBQ for her birthday. It was casual, just grilled food, some music, lots of people I didn't know. I tried to relax, make small talk, pretend like I wasn't walking around with 1,000 pounds on my chest. Jasmine was in full charm mode, laughing too loudly, posing for pictures, making jokes about how wedding planning is like a full-time job for 2 people, but guess who's not clocking in? People laughed. I didn't. I was getting a drink when a guy tapped me on the shoulder. "Hey, you must be Jasmine's fiancé," he said. He held out his hand. "I'm Marcus. We dated in college." It threw me off for a second, but I shook his hand. He seemed chill, friendly even. "She's something, huh?" He chuckled. "You proposed yet?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "A few weeks ago," he grinned. "Bet she gave you hell about the ring." "Don't take it personal, man. She did the same to me. Said mine looked like it came out of a vending machine." He laughed like it was no big deal, then clapped me on the back. "It's just her way." I stood there, frozen. He wandered off, sipping his beer, leaving me with a cold weight in my stomach. It wasn't just me. She'd done this before. The mocking, the behind-the-back jokes, the performance. And I wasn't special. I was just the next guy in line to be belittled with a smile. I looked across the yard and saw her laughing with her friends, flipping her hair like nothing could touch her. And I realized this wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. This was who she was, and suddenly, I wasn't sure I could marry her at all. After the BBQ, I couldn't shake the conversation with Marcus. It looped in my head like a bad song. I kept thinking, if she mocked his ring too, how many others has she humiliated for loving her sincerely? It wasn't about the price. It was about pride, about dignity. A few days later, I opened the shared Google sheet where I'd been tracking wedding expenses. I spent the whole evening refining it, color-coded it, broke it down by venue, food, attire, decorations. I calculated what we could actually afford without debt, without dipping into the small emergency fund I'd built for years. I even created 2 budget tiers, essentials and wants. I emailed it to Jasmine with a simple message. "Hey babe, let's sit down and go through this together. I think we can still have a beautiful day without overextending ourselves." I thought I was being thoughtful, practical, responsible. She didn't answer right away, but when she walked in that night, hair still wet from the gym, still scrolling her phone, she didn't say hi. She just threw her bag on the couch and snapped, "Are you seriously micromanaging our wedding like a freaking accountant now?" I blinked. "I just wanted us to be on the same page. You literally made a spreadsheet like I'm your employee," she said, voice rising. "This is supposed to be the most romantic time of our lives, and you're treating it like a tax audit." "I just don't want us drowning in credit card debt 2 months after saying I do," I said, trying to keep calm. She scoffed. "You're such a broke joke, honestly." The words hit me like a slap. A pause hung between us. Her chest heaved with anger. Mine tightened with disbelief. I didn't even argue. I just stood there, realizing she didn't love me. She loved the idea of what I could provide, and if it wasn't flashy enough, she'd rather burn it all down. It was a Thursday night. Jasmine thought I was working late, but I'd come home early after a long client meeting got canceled. I didn't make any noise as I came in, just kicked off my shoes quietly and headed toward the bedroom. That's when I heard her voice, soft and sarcastic, floating from the living room. "No, seriously, he wants to have the wedding in a community center, like with those plastic folding chairs and fluorescent lights. I feel like I'm marrying a dad from a tax commercial." Laughter erupted from the speaker, her mom, her bridesmaids. They were all on a video call, wine glasses clinking in the background, giggling like teenagers. "Honestly," Jasmine continued, her voice laced with mock exasperation, "the only thing more embarrassing than that Black Friday ring is his obsession with budgeting. I didn't realize I was marrying a calculator." More laughter. I didn't move. I just stood in the hallway, out of sight, every muscle in my body stiff. I felt like I'd walked in on a private roast, and the main dish was my dignity. That was it. The moment, my rock bottom. It wasn't just the jokes. It was the contempt, the ease with which she turned my sincerity into comedy. She knew I worked hard, knew how seriously I took building a future, and still she ripped that apart for laughs. And these weren't strangers. They were supposed to be our inner circle, our people. I turned around and left, didn't say a word. Just drove. I didn't know where I was going. I ended up at a gas station 30 miles out, just sitting in my car under flickering lights, staring at the ring box I'd kept in the glove compartment. I thought I'd hit lows before. I thought I knew heartbreak, but nothing had ever hollowed me out like this. Because love, it doesn't mock you behind your back. When I came home that night, Jasmine was already asleep, curled up under the comforter like she hadn't spent the evening tearing me down for sport. I didn't say anything. I just stood there for a moment in the doorway, staring at her peaceful face, wondering how someone could sleep so soundly after doing what she did. I didn't bring it up the next day. Or the one after. I didn't have the strength. Instead, I went silent. No more suggestions. No more spreadsheets. I nodded when she showed me new centerpieces. I mumbled "looks great" when she rattled off the updated head count. I was there, but not really. I was watching everything from a distance, like I was observing someone else's life. She barely noticed. I'd always thought silence was peaceful. But this was suffocating. It was like walking through a fog I couldn't shake. I found myself sitting in the garage one night, lights off, just listening to the hum of the fridge and the ticking of the old wall clock. That clock used to belong to my dad. It was the only thing I took from his house after he passed. I used to love its sound. Now it felt like it was counting down something I didn't want to face. Jasmine never asked what was wrong. She never once looked at me and said, "Are you okay?" It was like my silence gave her more space to plan the wedding she wanted without interruption. I realized something during that quiet week. I could marry this woman. I could go through with it. Smile for the photos. Recite the vows. Play pretend. But I'd be alone in that marriage, and somewhere in that fog. I began to plan my exit, not with shouting, not with revenge, just with truth and distance. By the time the RSVP deadline hit, the silence between us had become its own language. We weren't fighting, we weren't anything. Just two people orbiting the same space, pretending to plan a life together. Guests were confirming. Deposits were locked in. Jasmine was buzzing with excitement over seating charts and honeymoon packages. She didn't notice that I barely spoke during vendor calls. Didn't flinch when I stopped offering to drive to appointments. She took it as me letting her take control. I wasn't letting her do anything. I was already gone in my head. I met with my best friend Ryan for lunch. He's the kind of guy who doesn't sugarcoat things, which is why I went to him. "I think I made a mistake," I said, barely getting the words out. He didn't even blink. "Then don't marry her, man." "It's not that easy," I muttered. "Everything's booked. People are flying in. Vendors are paid, so what?" he said, setting down his drink. "You think staying with someone who mocks you is going to be easier in 5 years? 10? You think waking up next to someone who doesn't respect you is easier than disappointing a few people now?" I sat there staring into my plate. Not because he was wrong, but because I knew he was right. I went home that night and called my mom. Told her everything. The ring, the group chat, the jokes, the silence. She didn't interrupt once. Then she said the softest thing I've ever heard from her. It takes strength to walk away from a lie dressed as love. And just like that, the fog lifted. I knew what I had to do. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now. I waited for the right moment. Jasmine had a dress fitting scheduled that Saturday afternoon, and I knew she'd be gone for a few hours. I watched her leave, smiling, blowing me a kiss at the door, completely unaware. I stood there in the hallway for a minute after it shut behind her, breathing. Then I moved. I sat down at my laptop and started making calls. The venue, the florist, the photographer. One by one, I explained the situation calmly. No drama, just cancellations. I asked which deposits were refundable. Most weren't, I didn't care. I emailed our guests next. Every single one of them. Short, clear, respectful. "Hey everyone, I'm writing to let you know the wedding has been called off. There's no big scandal or hatred. I've just realized this isn't the relationship I want to build a life on. I hope you'll understand and respect our privacy." I sent it. Then I froze the joint wedding account. I left a note on the kitchen table. Not cruel, not angry, just honest. "Jasmine, I loved you enough to spend everything I had on a ring that meant something to me. You mocked it, and that told me everything I needed to know. Please don't contact me. There's nothing left to fix." I packed 2 bags, grabbed my laptop, a few essentials, the dog. That was it. When she came home, I was long gone, no screaming match. No confrontation. I didn't need to see her cry crocodile tears or spin 1,000 excuses. I didn't want to argue. I wanted peace. And for the first time in months, hell, maybe years, I felt like I could breathe again. She would wake up in her dream wedding world. But this time, she'd have to explain the ending alone. The next 48 hours were a storm I never stepped into. My phone lit up like a slot machine. 37 missed calls, dozens of texts, voicemail after voicemail. First came the confusion. Where are you? Why is the wedding canceled? This has to be a mistake. Then the panic. You can't just disappear like this. People are asking me what happened. What am I supposed to say? And then, the anger. You're humiliating me. Grow the hell up. You think walking away makes you the bigger person? I didn't reply to a single message. I let the silence do what words never could. She had to explain it to her parents, to her friends, to the venue, the caterers, the guests. Alone. I imagined her staring at that note I left on the table, trying to find some version of the story where she didn't look like the villain. But you can't spin the truth when too many people know it. Apparently, one of her bridesmaids, the one who stayed quiet during all those group chat roasts, had a conscience. She forwarded the screenshots to a mutual friend. From there, they made their way around. People started putting two and two together. The laughing emojis, the recession rock jokes, the community center wedding jabs. The support I got was unexpected. Old friends reached out. Even a few of her family members messaged me privately to say, I don't blame you. You deserved better. I'm sorry she treated you that way. It didn't make it all okay, but it reminded me I wasn't crazy. I didn't walk away because I was cold. I walked away because I finally understood something Jasmine never did. Love isn't earned by money. It's destroyed by cruelty. A week after I left, Jasmine posted a long Instagram story, a black background with white text, that dramatic breakup aesthetic. It started with, sometimes, people show their true colors when things get real. She went on about being blindsided, how she never got closure, and how some men are so emotionally unavailable that they run instead of communicate. She even posted a throwback photo of us on vacation in Colorado with the caption, "Crazy how someone can fake a whole future with you." Her followers were eating it up. Comments poured in, "You deserve better, queen. He couldn't handle a strong woman. Glad you dodged a red flag." At first, I stayed quiet. I didn't want to feed the drama. I'd made my decision and stood by it. But then the screenshots started surfacing. That bridesmaid, Jess, I think her name was, sent them to a friend of mine, who posted them in a private Facebook group Jasmine was also in. All those jokes, all those mocking messages, the captions, the ring photos, the laughing reactions. People started to see through the facade. Her DMs, I heard, weren't so supportive after that. The same folks who praised her started turning. A few mutual friends sent me screenshots of the new comments she was deleting. You were clowning his proposal and you expect sympathy? This isn't giving heartbreak, it's giving mean girl energy. She locked down her profile not long after that, and I didn't have to lift a finger. The truth had its own way of crawling into the light. And the woman who had once weaponized laughter and mockery? Now she had to sit in the silence. A silence I once begged for. A silence she had earned all on her own. After everything, I found myself back in my old apartment, smaller, quieter, with paint chips on the windowsills and a drafty kitchen window. But it felt like mine. No tension. No eggshells. No quiet resentment simmering under the surface of every conversation. Just peace. I unpacked slowly over the next few days. Box by box. Memory by memory. I found the ring tucked inside a side pocket of my duffel bag, still in its velvet box. I opened it, stared at it for a long time. Not with regret, but with clarity. I didn't return it. I didn't sell it. I framed the receipt. Yeah, the receipt. Black Friday discount and all. I put it in a simple frame and hung it in my little office right above my desk. Not because I wanted to remember the pain, but because I needed to remember the lesson. Love is not measured in carats or price tags. It's measured in how someone talks about you when you're not around. In how they hold your name in a room full of people. I kept the friends who reached out. I kept the quiet nights, the freedom, the clarity. I kept the lessons, but I let go of the fantasy. The illusion. The polished version of Jasmine I'd clung to for too long. I let go of the shame because there was none to carry. I had shown up. I had loved with sincerity. And she had mocked that. That wasn't my failure. That was hers, it's funny. I thought walking away would leave me feeling empty. But the truth is, I'd never felt more full. And for the first time in months, I looked in the mirror and saw a man I was proud of. It's been just over a year since I walked away from that wedding, since I canceled the deposits, packed my bags, and left a note on the table that changed everything. And honestly, I haven't looked back once. Life didn't magically become perfect after that. There were lonely nights, awkward explanations, grief for a future I'd once pictured so clearly. But what came after was something I never expected: wholeness. And eventually, something even better. Her name is Alyssa. We met at a friend's game night, of all places. She beat me in Scrabble and made fun of my word choices for an hour, but not in a mean way. Just playful, kind, real. We talked all night about stupid little things: what books we hated in school, which pizza topping should be illegal, pineapple, obviously. And somehow, it all felt easy. We dated slow. No rush, no Instagram perfection. Just two people showing up with all their imperfections and none of the performance. When I proposed, 8 months later, it was on a random Sunday morning. In the kitchen. No big speech. Just me, a homemade breakfast, and a tiny ring I picked because I knew it suited her. Understated, simple, just like her. She didn't even look at the ring before she said yes. She looked at me, and that moment, that's what love is supposed to feel like. No jokes, no side eyes, no group chats dissecting what wasn't good enough. Just yes. Now, when I hear people talk about dodging a bullet, I smile a little. Because I didn't just dodge one. I let it hit me, and I learned from it, and I walked away stronger, with a woman who doesn't need a ring to prove my worth. Just the man who gave it to her.